In Capital News tonight, President Samia Suluhu Hassan directs the Ministry of Water to complete all projects as planned. "15 people have been arrested for stealing fuel from the port of Dar es Salaam. And in sports, AZAM FC dropped their interest in Kenyan midfielder Francis Kahata. Good evening, this is Capital News at 9:30. My name is Vanessa Victor. Let's start things off with the national news. The President of the United Republic of Tanzania, Samia Suluhu Hassan, has directed the Ministry of Water to ensure all projects being implemented in various parts of the country are completed as planned so the public can have access to clean and safe water. President Samia Suluhu Hassan gave the directive in Misungwi District, MWANZA region, during the inauguration of Nyahiti Water Project, constructed at a cost of 13.77 billion shillings that will service over 60,000 residents of Misungwi and neighboring areas, whereby she also directed MWANZA Urban Water Supply and Sanitation Authority, MWASA, to stop giving consumers exaggerated water bills.
I understand that not all citizens have been supplied with water. Thus, I'm instructing the ministry and engineers in respective regions and districts to make sure water is supplied rapidly so that people can have access to it. In addition to this project, there are many other projects going on in various areas in MWANZA districts, of which, once completed, it will cost 30.8 billion, bringing water availability to rise to 85%. I therefore instruct the Water Ministry to make sure the remaining water projects are completed and at the set standard. As the ministry in charge of water, we continue to make improvements in order for every Tanzanian to have access to water. Your directive is for the Ministry of Water not to have incompetent contractors who've carried out an evaluation, and so far we've parted ways with 118 contractors. Regarding availability of water, the service is not readily available, especially in areas within Misungwi Municipal Council.
Meanwhile, President Samia Suluhu Hassan has also set history in the development of Tanzania by laying the foundation stone of the 3.1 trillion shilling standard gauge railway SGR construction project from MWANZA to Isaka, where she assured citizens that completion of both parts of the project will reduce transport costs by 40% and stimulate other economical activities.
This rail will reduce costs and simplify means of transportation of people and goods between our ports, interiors, and even the neighboring countries. Construction of the rail and other projects demands a lot of funds. That is why I am calling on Tanzanians to continue paying tax so as to allow the government to implement such projects. Out of 43 kilometers constructed, only 20 kilometers are left. The train has capacity of carrying over 17 tons of cargo. The train will not only cater for Tanzanians, but even our neighbors like Uganda. Instead of traveling thousands of miles to Dar es Salaam port for taking their cargo, they can now rely on the train and wait for their consignments in MWANZA. In 2021 financial year, the government set aside 2.2 trillion, and by 2021-2022 financial year, 1.2 trillion has been set aside for the purpose of continuing constructions of the standard gauge railway. Honorable President, the government is aware of efforts done by the sixth phase government in finding more funds of completing the project from Makutupora to Mwanza.
Katika kuhakikisha kwamba mtafuta fedha ili kuendelea kukamilisha vipande vilivyobaki kutoka Makutupora hadi Mwanza.
And then 15 people have been arrested by the police force for connecting pipes from the main pipeline that takes fuel from Dar es Salaam port, building wells within their homes and turning gravel trucks into fuel distributors.
You are the one who owns the infrastructure, yet you don't have the skill to tell if there is leakage.
Ambao tunatumia ni kwa lile ambalo linachukua kipisi kutoka kwenye meli mpaka kwenye flow meter.
The system we have is one from the ship to the flow meter, because from there you can see water coming out and you're able to tell if there is an oil leakage.
Malalamiko yapo kupata mafuta pungufu kwenye.
Regarding complaints about not enough oil in sale contracts, there is an amount that is within capacity.
Maji, kiwango cha mafuta. Kuna kiwango ambacho kinakubalika kwamba kiko katika uwezo wa njia ya kupima.
And members of Parliament have begun to contribute to the 2021-2022 Central Budget estimates unveiled last Thursday, with some urging the governments to find alternative tax sources that do not adversely affect citizens.
I have suggested that the government should come up with tax that will go by the name Digital Services Tax, that will be imposed on advertisements on online platforms like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter and Google.
Ukusanyaji ni jambo moja, lakini nakuja swala la udhibiti na matumizi ya fedha za umma.
Collecting tax is one thing, but another crucial task is combating public funds embezzlement, where I have advised the Ministry of Finance through Public Finance Act of 2001, following establishment of special departments on issues of combating public funds embezzlement. I have asked the ministry to use them effectively. There is no country in the world that can develop without tax. I want all Tanzanians to be aware of that. The government cannot only rely on donors for funds. Citizens have to carry the burden, because good infrastructures, water, health services, education and so on are brought in the country for the benefit of the people. That is why they must contribute.
And the last respects of the bodies of a mother and two daughters of the Mutaboyera family who were brutally killed in their home in Masaki have been held in Mikocheni, and later they were laid to rest at Ununio Cemetery in Dar es Salaam.
Well, somebody once told me, when you live with a house help, make efforts of knowing them and be wise while living with them. But unfortunately, when we trust and love people, they become part of our families.
Na sadaka hii ya Kristo
Are all in pain, the church, the society, relatives, neighbors and friends. Let us pray to God to give us strength during this difficult time.
Mita alikuwa akisoma grade 7 katika shule ya Hopat.
The late Emily and her children lost their lives by being killed on 9th of June 2021 at their home in Masaki, Dar es Salaam.
2021 nyumbani kwao Masaki jijini Dar es Salaam.
The Confederation of Tanzania Industries, CTI, has said that the 2021-2022 central budget has taken into consideration protecting local industries by removing many charges and increasing taxes on foreign industrial raw materials in line with the government's industrial economy policy. They also commended the government for taking their recommendations.
na hii hasa ni katika kulinda.
In efforts of protecting our industries within the country and among other East African countries, some industries are quite effective, but due to imported items that are sold at lower prices, causing such measures to be addressed. On this matter, we congratulate the government and the minister. As the government is preparing for production of oil crops, then factories that were importing oil should be given a period of 2 to 3 years before they are closed down, as we get ourselves ready for such huge.
And the government has expressed satisfaction with the construction pace of BAGAMOYO sugar factory owned by BAHWESA group of companies, whose production activities are expected to begin in June of 2022. The factory targets to produce between 30 to 35,000 tons of sugar to start with and 100,000 tons upon completion to meet sugar demands in the country.
Right now, the demand of sugar is 600,000 tons in a year, with our production capacity in the country being 386,000 tons so far. But until May this year, production of sugar reached 256,000 tons, which is equivalent to 66%. That is why 40% of the demand must be fulfilled by imported sugar. Although the government's vision is sufficient production of sugar that will drive exportation of the commodity, BAGAMOYO Sugar is the first sugar factory and is the first private sugar factory in the country. It is a huge success to us as a country because the factory will boost production of sugar and help in reaching our target set.
Kwanza tuna changamoto ya upatikanaji wa maji kwa sababu
our main challenge is availability of water, because we need water for irrigation, because this area does not have enough rainfall, although the ministry in charge has the plan of constructing a dam that will help us in irrigation scheme.
Katika hekta hizo 10,000 ambazo wamepewa,
the factory still needs 6 hectares from 10 hectares that they were given. 6 hectares are not favorable for farming sugarcane. As the government, I think we should support such investment projects.
Ya kutosha kuweza kuzalisha zao la miwa, na hata wakisema waiweke virutubisho bado inaonekana itahitajika kutumia gharama kubwa sana.
Tanzania has joined other countries in the world in commemorating World Blood Donor Day, with Muhimbili National Hospital stating that the demand for blood is high, with blood donations per day less than 80 units.
Kwa takwimu hii, mahitaji ya damu bado ni makubwa sana.
From the statistics, it shows that blood demands in the country are high. But with cooperation and support from stakeholders, we believe that we shall succeed in helping those in need.
Zaidi damu kutoka kwa ndugu wa wagonjwa.
We highly depend on patients' relatives whenever a patient needs blood. According to WHO, safe blood is the one that is collected from those who initiate freely. In commemorating this important day, I call on Tanzanians to show up in big numbers to contribute blood in all centers throughout the country. Following directives from Honorable President, the government should give seeds to farmers in subsidies, and in the coming budget, we have set aside special budget for seeds. As the government, we shall import seeds that are scarce in the country. Then we shall provide them to farmers in half price.
Wanajitolea wenyewe damu kwa hiari kwa sababu hujui inaweza kukusaidia hata wewe mwenyewe.
Last respects for the body of scholar and former member of Chadema Party Central Committee, Professor Mwesiga Baregu, are expected to be held in Dar es Salaam on June the 18th before his body is taken to his home in Bukoma village, where he will be laid to rest on Sunday, June the 20th.
Kama siku ina mabana, lakini siku ya Alhamis tunategemea kuleta mwili nyumbani. Mchana awasili hapa, atalala hapa nyumbani kwake. Jumamosi tunatarajia mwili kuwasili Bukoba, ambako profesa atafikia tena nyumbani kwake kijijini na kulala pale, na hatimaye siku ya Jumapili kutakuwa kuna again ibada na mazishi.
And that is all for the national news. International news is next. And in international news, the trial of deposed Myanmar leader Aung San Suu Kyi has gotten underway more than 4 months after a military coup.
On Monday, the court heard a police major testify that Aung San Suu Kyi broke coronavirus restrictions during last year's elections, that her National League for Democracy NLD won in a landslide, while another testified on separate charges accusing her of illegally importing and possessing walkie-talkies. Aung San Suu Kyi was hit with additional corruption charges on Thursday over claims she illegally accepted $600,000 in cash and 11 kilograms of gold. A separate trial is scheduled to start on Tuesday over sedition charges she faces alongside overthrown President Win Myint and another senior member of NLD. If convicted of all charges, Aung San Suu Kyi faces more than a decade in jail.
And President Kenyatta of Kenya has again reiterated that the Constitution Amendment process through the Building Bridges Initiative BBI aims to unite Kenyans and to ensure every part of the country is represented by the government.
BBI is not because someone is looking for a seat. BBI was to make sure that every part of this country feels that it is part of the government. It is encouraging to see leaders from different political parties together. There is no nation that can move forward if its leaders are not together. We've done a lot this time round because we've been working together, focusing on development rather than politics.
The court-martial in Uganda has released on bail 49 supporters of former presidential candidate Robert Kyagulanyi, popularly known as Bobby Wine, after being detained for 6 months.
The 18 accused are required to remain in Kampala and to appear in court twice per month and to pay a 20 million bond.
That's all for the international news. Business news follows after this short break.
Tune in to Business Edition and meet business leaders and experts who keep you informed on business and economic developments taking place in the country, such as tourism, construction, energy, transport, mining, agriculture, communication, banking, real estate, and more. Business Edition on Friday at 8:15 p.m. only on Capital Television.
In business news, the Chief Executive Officer of SALAAM Stock Exchange, Muremi Mara, has said despite growth at the stock market, foreign investments, particularly on buying of shares, have declined due to the coronavirus pandemic.
Upande wa hisa, kama ambavyo huwa nawaambia mara kwa mara,
on investment on shares, as I've previously said, foreign investors contribute to a larger extent than internal investors, and health challenges has led to society and communal challenges, which has been the cause of the decrease in investment.
Uchumi. Na kwa hivyo inapelekea uwekezaji kupungua.
The government has said that cotton farmers from Tanganyika district in Katavi region and Igunga district in Tabora region will start to benefit from a 10 to 20% price increase after the districts were chosen to produce cotton seedlings for the country.
Wilaya zingine zikiwa zinalipwa bei labda 1,000, nyinyi mtakuwa mnapata ziada ya 10% mpaka 20%. Sijui tumeelewana? Mnanielewa lakini? wilaya ya Igunga na wilaya ya Katavi. Kwa nini? Kwa sababu nyinyi ndio mnaozalisha mbegu ya pamba. Sawa? Kwa hiyo ninachowaomba Olomosho kakaya, mkangolee kabisa maotea, msiache maotea.
And residents living around the eastern Arc Mountains have urged the government to construct infrastructure such as roads so as to attract tourists to the areas.
Kwa sababu kama vile yani havifuatilizwi.
For a tourist to reach his destination, the road must be good. If it's not, then it means that it will be difficult for the tourist to get there.
Tunajaribu kuangalia shughuli mbalimbali za utalii ambazo zinaweza zikafanyika.
We are looking at various tourist activities that could take place in these mountains so as to connect Nyerere and Mikumi parks in order to allow tourists to spend time here.
Shughuli mbalimbali, kwa kufanya hivyo watawanufaisha wananchi wa hapa, lakini pia watalii watakuwa wamepata kitu tofauti.
That's all for business news. Sports is next.
Away first time, good start from Bolt. Bolt leading a moment of going away. Gay trying to go with him, and he's going to be dragged through the second place, but he's going to win it by 2 meters. Away first time, good start from Bolt. Bolt leading a moment of going away. Gay trying to go with him, and he's going to be dragged through the second place, but he's going to win it by 2 meters. Joaquinho, he did lose and then
Now in sports. Former Tanzania prison star Eliud Mpepa has given his views on Simba Sports Club's transfer targets, Moses Fury of Zanaco FC and Cape Town City's Justin Shonga. Here's more.
The primary targets to fill the boots of Louis Mixon, who could leave Wekundu Msimbazi at the end of the season. Mixon, who was signed in 2019 from UD Songo, has impressed in Tanzania and has attracted offers from North Africa. Simba are willing to let the Mozambican leave should the unnamed Egyptian and Moroccan sides meet their $700,000 to $1 million valuation of the star. Mpepa, who played with Fidi at Buildcorn, has said the Simba targets are good, but the output will largely depend on the coach's playstyle.
And AZAM FC have confirmed that they have dropped their interest in Kenyan midfielder Francis Kahata. Here's more.
9-year-old experienced playmaker is currently a free agent after being released by mainland Premier League champion Simba Sports Club, who regarded him as a surplus to requirements, and immediately after he left them Msimbazi Giants, reports emerged he was a target for the ice cream makers. A top official at the Chamazi-based club says that they are not keen to sign the player, who was part of the Wekundu Msimbazi squad which reached the quarterfinals of the CAF Champions League, where they were eliminated by Kaizer Chiefs. The former Gor Mahia midfielder left the reigning champions after they opted against extending his contract, which is ending at the end of June.
Chris Paul scored 37 points, Devin Booker added 34, and Phoenix beat Denver 125-118 to complete a 4-game sweep of the NBA Western Conference semifinal series. Here are more details.
NBA MVP Nikola Jokic was ejected in the third quarter with his Nuggets trailing 83-76 after his hard swipe sent the basketball flying but also caught Cameron Payne in the face. Officials assessed a double technical on Jokic and Booker and ejected the MVP after upping the call to a flagrant 2. Jokic said he meant only to commit a hard foul on Payne to spark his team. "I wanted to change the rhythm of the game. I wanted to give us some energy," Jokic said. Jokic finished with 22 points and 11 rebounds in 28 minutes.
Tottenham are set to appoint Paulo Fonseca as their new manager this week on an expected 3-year deal. Spurs' new director of football, Fabio Paratici, made a move for the former Roma manager following the collapse of talks with former Chelsea and Inter manager Antonio Conte.
Talks have progressed well over the weekend, with Fonseca agreeing in principle to take over at Spurs, where he will replace Jose Mourinho, the manager who has succeeded him at Roma. The move to appoint Conte, who departed Inter despite taking them to the Serie A title, broke down as Spurs became concerned over the Italian's demands and whether he would commit to blooding young players. Fonseca is expected to be unveiled by Tottenham possibly as soon as Wednesday. The deal is expected to be structured in an initial 2-year contract with an option for another season.
Manchester City defender João Cancelo has tested positive for COVID-19 2 days before Portugal's Euro 2020 opener against Hungary.
Cancelo has been placed in isolation, and Portugal's coach Fernando Santos has replaced the 27-year-old with Manchester United's Diogo Dalot for the European champions' first game in Budapest on Tuesday. Dalot spent last season on loan at Milan and was part of the Portugal side beaten in the European Championship under-11 final by Germany last week. In a statement, the Portuguese Football Federation said the AC Milan player will replace João Cancelo, who tested positive for COVID-19 following a quick test of the antigen carried out this Saturday by the Health and Performance Unit of FPF.
And that sports item ends our news bulletin. On behalf of everyone who worked to bring you this bulletin, my name is Vanessa Victor. Thank you for watching. Good night.
Chemsha bongo, chemsha bongo, chemsha bongo! Ndio, ni chemsha bongo. Piga simu sasa nikuulize swali jepesi. Ukipata zako salamu kwa watu watatu. Ukichemka unakutana na yes, mkono wa kipusa. Na sasa kwenye chemsha bongo kuna zawadi kibao kama vile simu ya mkononi, gas cooker, blender, rice cooker na nyinginezo nyingi. Zote hizi zipo kwa ajili yako. Kila siku inatoka zawadi moja.
Nimekuja kumpokelea mdogo wangu Mary Macha akiwa UDODOMA. Amejishindia zawadi ya jiko la pleti 2.
Hapo mwanzo sikuamini kama ni kweli wanatoa zawadi. Na washukuru sana kwa kuweza kunikabidhi zawadi yangu siku ya leo.